Well, I'm very pleased to have on the line Steve Louw from Cape Town in South Africa, and he's got a new album on the horizon, and we're going to have a chat about that and the studio and the recording sessions and everything, and whatever else crops up. So, Steve,
Great.
great to
Hi,
see you
Steve.
again, and great to have
Yeah,
you on online. We
likewise.
we did
Great
talk
to be on your
previously when
show.
you released your last album, didn't we?
Yeah, between time a year or two ago.
Yeah. I think it was about 18 months ago when
Yeah,
Between the Lines came out, wasn't it? Well, Between Time came
between
out.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so this album to me feels very different in that I felt maybe this is a more personal album.
Yeah, I think so. It's the same band, so I think sonically it's quite similar. With that said, there's one new guitar player, Bob Britt,
Mm,
who's played with Doug, who I've played with quite a bit. But this is the first time I've recorded with Bob, and
mm,
Doug and Bob know each other really well, so you can hear their interplay, which is, I think, one of the
yes.
highlights of the album. The two guitar players playing against each other and never stepping on each other. And
Right.
it was great playing with both Doug and, well, the whole band, but Bob and Doug together are great.
Yes. In the press release that
Yeah,
I've been that said that you saw Bob playing with Dylan.
yeah. So they've been in his touring band. Bob Britt's been in Bob Dylan's touring band since I think about 2018, and he played on Time Out of Mind.
Mm,
And then Doug joined the band on Bob's recommendation in after COVID. Yeah, in 21.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
But it's great
did you
great to have
know?
two players that play together just about every. I mean, they do a lot of shows together, so you can really feel that the interplay between them, and they listen so carefully.
Yeah.
It's a real privilege to be able to play with them.
Yeah. Were you familiar with Bob Britt before you saw him at the Dylan concert?
Yes, I'd heard he's playing on Time Out of My. I always, probably like
Mm,
you, read credits, album credits.
yeah.
And Doug had told me that I asked Doug because when we recorded Thunder and Rain together, he had just joined Dylan's band. He'd just been on the first tour towards the end of 21. They'd done the first 2 months, and we recorded in January 22. So he'd only been out, maybe for 30 shows. And he mentioned how great it was. I asked him, how did you get into the band? And he said, well, my buddy recommended me. And
Mm.
then then it rang a bell that I'd seen his name on the Time Out of Mind sessions. And actually
Which is,
he also plays on Dylan's latest album. What is it called? The one that came out in 2020.
yeah, I can't
Escapes me
remember.
now. Yeah, it'll come to me now. And I went to see Dylan coincidentally, and when I saw them, the two together, it really struck me how great they were
Mm,
together as two players together, the interplay.
yeah. And of course, Bob also has a lot of credits as a producer as well. And I think
Yes. Yeah.
he worked a lot with Delbert McClinton, which I think they won a Grammy.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and I mean, it's a great band. I mean, Doug is
Mm,
a good producer as well. Kevin's a good producer.
yeah,
Kevin McKendry's also a Grammy-winning producer with Delbert. So
yeah,
these are
yes. It's pretty
what a
hot band in there.
yeah.
And the same rhythm section that you used last time, Alison
Yeah,
and
great.
Greg.
Yeah, Greg Morrow and Allison. Allison is a fantastic. She's not that well known outside of the studio scene. She's not a
Mm,
household word, but boy, she's a fantastic player.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I know Kevin has used her on several recordings that
yeah,
I've been aware of and listened to.
yeah.
Joanne Taylor, for instance, springs to mind, and
Yes,
some others.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She studied with Carol Kay. That fantastic
Oh, wow.
bass player from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Part of that little kind of immediate family kind of scene.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just all the session guys. Yeah, so you had a pretty good band to go into the
Yeah.
studio. Was this a different studio to what you used last time?
Yes, we used Dave Cobb's studio, which is the RCA studio. He'd
Mm,
been there exclusively, but now he's built another studio at his home. So it's opened up that other outside people can use it, and Kevin wanted to use it. He'd used it with Joanne's album and loved it.
Right.
So it's a great room, and it
Mm.
has a lot of history in it. And it was fantastic being in that room. And all Dave Cobb's stuff is there. He's got lots of guitars
Yeah.
and amps and vintage drums, and it's just there's a lot of music in the walls. So that's inspirational.
Yeah, so there's a real vibe there. That
Yeah,
must
yeah,
be wonderful
yeah,
to go into a situation like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think I read in the notes that you went in with 18 songs,
Yeah, yeah, and then Kevin
and
chose the ones that that he liked or that struck him as strong.
yeah, so yeah, and you're happy with them because it one of the things that I remember most about the last album is that you released it actually as a double album, and there
Yeah,
was like because you said you couldn't kind of there were none of the songs that weren't good enough to make the release.
I think
So
so.
you've gone in with a slightly different mindset this time.
I think after not being in the studio for so long, I had a break for like 13 years. And during that time, I
Mm,
was still writing songs, but I didn't have a record deal. So
mm,
I think it's a lot of that. And I think definitely the COVID period where I had done an album and I knew if I could get out of this COVID thing, I'm going to make another album. I think it was all part
yeah.
of that. That kind of pent up thing. And I think for the whole world, that lockdown is like, if I ever get out of here, man, I'm going to make music as much as I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was that
I'm just
mindset.
wondering if you're now feeling that you've got maybe 8 songs ready to go for the next album.
Yeah, I've always have a couple of songs knocking around, and I write songs all the time. But the great thing now is having done all these albums in quite a short period of time, I feel very connected to the band, and they're really
Mm,
enthusiastic about the music, and we're comfortable with each
yeah.
other, and we're more than just acquaintances. And I speak to Kevin all the time, and it's just for me very inspirational to have that. And when I'm writing a song at home, I can think I think of Bob Britt or Doug and what they
Yeah.
would do, or Greg. And it elevates your songwriting because you're thinking, well, I got to walk into the room and play this to these people who are no slouches. So
Yeah.
the whole thing is inspirational. Whereas when you're writing songs and you're writing them for yourself, it's not, you're not thinking in terms of production, in terms of, um, I've got to convince these other people. And, I think it's like that when you're in a band, you have to go to these band members cold and impress them.
Yeah.
And, it's like you can't walk, and I'm sure if you take an analogy of the Beatles, if George Harrison's writing a song, he says, I've got to walk in the room and impress John Lennon and Paul McCartney on a very different
Yeah.
scale. For me, it says, I've got to go in the room and impress a room full of Grammy winning guys here. I better just shape up. So I
The
find
bar is
that
quite high,
inspiration.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I find it
Yeah.
very inspirational, and it sharpens my focus and sharpens my work ethic.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is no bad thing.
Yeah,
I remember when we talked last time and you said you went into the studio, and I don't know if that was the first time you worked with some of those guys, and
yeah,
you said you were very conscious that you had to perform, you had the songs prepared, and you had to go in and perform the songs to the very best of your ability.
yeah.
Did that feel slightly less intimidating, if that's the right word, this time around?
Just in the sense of, I wouldn't go so far as to say is that the band are close friends of mine, but they're more than acquaintances. So
Yeah.
uh, um, I've done it before. It's always easier. Like, I know
Yeah.
how to do this. I've done it before, and although that said, you've still got to be as prepared as I was before. But I think it's just less.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess having recorded with those guys once before, you know what they're going to bring to the table, that they're going to
Yes, yeah.
have their own ideas and contribute.
Yeah, I mean, with Bob Britt, I've only recorded 11 songs, but
Mm,
with the rest of the band, I've recorded 40 or 50 songs. So we know
yeah,
each other. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So that definitely helps, doesn't it?
yeah. And I mean, I said when I walked into the room for the Headlight Dreams back in 2020, it was like I said to them then, this is like the guy from the local the local baseball team walking out with the Yankees,
Yeah, yeah,
and facing
yeah,
their pitcher. But now it doesn't feel like that anymore. It's like, it's just human nature. I'm more comfortable in my own skin.
yeah, yeah. As I, as I said at the start, I feel the album is different in it feels more personal this time. That some of the tracks, whereas I think on the last album or the last couple of albums, some of the subject matter has been kind of global and
Yes.
some
Yeah.
songs have been quite political based.
Yeah.
But this feels
Yeah.
more personal.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Is there
they are.
a reason for that?
No, I think it's just more a group of songs that hang together. And at the time, I definitely think a lot of the material that went on to Between Time came out of the COVID lockdown period. Songs like the Killers and Time to Get On and those sort of songs that were on Between Time came out of that lockdown. I wrote them in the time
Mm,
of none of us knew. Wow, where does this go? Is this people were dying everywhere and
yeah.
it was a scary time. I was quite isolated. I was in a rural environment in a cottage for about a year. So I think those songs came out of that time, whereas these are coming out of a time of a more, well, personal time where the issues are basically just my personal issues. I don't have that.
Mm,
The COVID lockdown really made us all just step back and think, what have we done? What are we doing?
yeah.
What is, and I think that came through on the album, the previous
Yeah,
album.
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a lot of, and some of the songs are quite surprising. I thought, I mean, Echo Dream, I think, is a wonderful song,
Thank you.
and I know, yeah, I think you all played acoustically on that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really beautiful song.
Thank you.
I kind of I was just looking at my notes, and I put, oh, a love song, but a love song about loss.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I wondered if that, and also there was the other one which is Light of Day,
Yep.
which I think is
Both.
also got, yeah, Woody's
Yeah.
Blues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is particularly the Light of Day, is that about a specific person or is it just a general?
No, it's just about a guy. Why it's Woody's Blues is it's the woodpecker that he hears knocking, but
Oh, I see.
nobody's going to
Yeah,
be knocking on his door, but it's the woodpecker. And
yeah.
when a woodpecker knocks, he's calling to his mate. That's why he
Well,
knocks like
yeah,
that, tuk tuk tuk, and then he listens for someone to tuk 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 back. um,
that, yeah,
so yeah, it's also like Echo Dream, a song about a love song and a song about loss, and a person thinking of people. And I think we all carry with us people in our lives that aren't around anymore,
yeah,
and they come back to us at night or in dreams or in songs or in thoughts.
mm,
And both of those
yeah.
songs, well, there are a couple of those songs. I mean, the second song as well is one of those, Tumbling Down.
Tumbling Down. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a similar one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
A lot of
you're
loss
obviously
going on here.
I think a retrospective kind of frame of mind when
I think so. Yeah.
writing. Yeah. But I also read that there was one track that you said you'd written at the same time as, yeah, as Train Don't Run. Traces
Yeah.
the title track, Traces of Flood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
of course that goes back, well, all the way back to 2019.
Yeah. 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 So that's on the
You
Headlight
said those
Dreams
two
album.
were brothers
Yeah.
in some ways.
Yeah, I did. Back in 2019, actually, I knew I was going to be going into the studio with Kevin because we arranged it in 2019 and I knew it was going to be in 2020. And I'd been on a very long solo motorcycle trip around South Africa. I mean, it was like 8,000 kilometers, which is a long way.
Mm,
And I think that journey and thinking and being in the landscape. Both of those songs came out of that time. The Traces of the Flood actually comes from when I started on this motorcycle trip. I thought, well, I've got to have some kind of a focus. I can't just really go around in circles. And I went
well, you
to the
could.
beginning. Yeah, you could. I went to the beginning of this big river in South Africa and followed its course. I tried to find roads that was close as possible from its mouth up to where it came out of the mountains. And I met a lot of people on the way, and I saw a lot of landscape. And my father and my grandfather come from those plains of the Karoo, which are kind of just like flat, vast plains. And I tried to find my grandfather's grave, and a lot of that stuff seeped into the song.
Mm.
And, there are a lot of defunct train tracks in South Africa now, and nature is taking over from, I've always seen that in colonial times, the first things that the British did was build They like to build train tracks.
Yeah.
And yeah. And, also coincidentally, my mother's father, my maternal grandfather, ran a section of the railroads in the 50s. So I've kind of linked to trains, and I love trains, and
Yeah.
a lot of that seeped into the song. And before there were roads, there were train tracks, and now you see nature taking over the train tracks, and it's all that kind of stuff and that also references back to Between Time, where we as humans try and dominate nature, but we will never succeed in that. Nature's got infinite
Mm.
time, and
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
limited time. Yeah, and the mountains will be around long after us.
Traces of the Flood. It was interesting because obviously it's the opening track of the album,
Yeah,
and I'd read before I listened to the album. I read the piece where you said that you'd seen Bob and playing with Doug, playing with
yeah,
Dylan.
yeah, yeah.
And as soon as I heard Traces of the Flood, that struck me. That sounded so much like it could have been a Bob Dylan track.
I think it's that guitar, the acoustic guitar, that opens it. You know what I mean? And then obviously
Yeah,
the players, but it does
but
have, I think,
even
some interesting
lyrically, and
lyrics. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It does tell a
yeah,
story, but a sort of mystical story.
I think,
Oh, and I met these kind of people, and then I also experienced nature and looking at rocks where you could see a face in the rocks, or dry riverbeds or flooded
mhm,
riverbeds, and in the Karoo, I mean, a million years ago there were dinosaurs. So it's all those elements that seep into you, and then obviously seep into a song.
yeah, yeah. It's
And I
interesting, isn't it?
and I think you've got to. That's what you've got to try and convey to the band. They've
Yes,
never seen South Africa. So when you perform the song to them, they've got to get that. You can't explain that. You definitely can't, like I'm explaining it to you, explain that to people who are going to record it. They've
mm,
got to sense that from your performance of the song on acoustic guitar and singing it.
yes, yeah. They have to feel it, don't they?
Feel it. Yeah, yeah. You can't give them a whole story. This is this and X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is the great art to songwriting, isn't it? The song, to a great or lesser extent, tells a story.
Yeah.
It's a small window, and if you perform with feeling, that's what really the song is about. And of
Yeah.
course, to have musicians who give the song what it needs, rather than playing to show off, or I can
Yeah.
play all these
Yeah. Yeah.
fantastic
Yeah.
notes and solos, but it's for what the song needs, isn't it? Which is what makes
Yeah.
these guys so good at what they do.
Yeah, and it's it's like Kevin once said, it's like it's not paint by numbers. You're trying to do Picasso.
Yeah,
Anybody can do paint by numbers. You can play in time and play in tune, but
yeah,
you've got to convey something to a listener who's going to hear it in a supermarket. So you've got to get through all that noise. So you've got to do something that strikes a chord in the listener. Otherwise, you fail.
yeah, very much so. Yeah, and I always feel with your albums that you do get that sense. You can listen to certain songs, and you do visualize those situations in those places.
Well,
I
thank
think
you. I'm
yeah.
I'm very gratified to hear that. Thanks.
Having said that, there are a couple of songs that are kind of quite short, punchy songs that
Yeah,
I didn't that were unexpected. CBGB
yeah,
Xmas,
yeah, yeah.
which was, and
That's
what
just
was the other one?
yeah. Well, I wrote CBGB Christmas on Christmas Day last year on a nylon string guitar, and I just had the riff, and it just came to me as a kind of punk song, and
Yeah.
it was 3 minutes of let's party and let's have fun. And yeah, it was the last song we recorded. We knocked it out in the last 10 minutes of the session, and we were
Yeah.
actually doing it as a throwaway. And then everybody said, "Man, this is such fun, and this is a great song," and we put it on the album.
Yeah.
But it's just really,
The other one, a little bit, is Across the River. It's kind of quite
yeah.
garagey
So
rock almost.
yeah, and it would work. That song would work also as just an acoustic guitar and voice because it has an interesting story, but it's recorded as a full-blown band track. But its story is, again, a guy is thinking he's going to see his love again, and you can take it any way you like. He's either going to see her
Mm,
in the afterlife or he'll see her down the road in this life,
yeah.
but he will see her again, and he's kind of thinking of mistakes he's made, and he's thinking of their great times together. He's thinking of her and him on Uncle Frankie's farm in the moonlight, and he's imagining how he would hold her in his arms again, whether it is in this life or in the afterlife.
Mm,
And
yeah.
he's the images are, I hear the locks turning on the key, or I hear the footsteps coming for me,
Mm,
but all I can do is think of you. We'll meet again across the riverside.
yeah.
So that river can be the River Styx, or it can be any river.
Yeah. I think that's really a clever songwriting because you let the listener form
Yeah.
their own.
And interesting enough, that song will work it's one of the few on the album that would work just with an acoustic guitar and voice.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. But just as a side then, have you ever considered making an album just a very stripped back acoustic
Yeah,
album?
often.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I would like to. But it's
Yeah. Is that something that you
got to
think
be
might happen?
a specific set of songs with a specific theme, and they have to be very strong songs with very strong stories. It's
Mm,
a hard thing to do. I would
yeah.
love to. I would love to be able to. Yeah.
Well, look out for that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have that said, I was always inspired by Springsteen's Nebraska, and
Mm,
I was living in New York in August of '82 when it was released, and I listened to it incessantly on a cassette. And I was inspired to buy one of those 4-track recorders, which we did all the
mm.
demos for my very first album in 1984. So yeah, I've always wanted to do that, and I hope I
It's interesting
pull it
because
off.
you mentioned Springsteen, and I actually thought that track we've just mentioned, Across the River, has a Springsteen kind of vibe going on there.
It does, yeah. It's got the band has got the vibe, the players have got it, the drummers got it. The lyric is that sort of thing, that sort of ambivalence of is it
Mm.
in the afterlife or in this life? I like that song. Yeah. We played it
Yes,
live
yeah,
in December, and there's actually a live video of it, and that's gonna be fun.
oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that will be good.
yeah.
The other one that's kind of quite punchy and rocky is the Time to Move. Time to Move, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and
Which is the current single, of course.
yeah, I had the riff of the 12-string guitar, and I knew the sound. There's a specific guitar that gives that sound, and it's a 12-string electric guitar. And if you'd know, there's a Pretender song where they use that. Actually, I think Johnny Marr plays it on a Pretender song. It's the Pretender song is, can't remember it, but right before the session, I went to the guitar shop, and there was one of those guitars. And I asked them if I
Right.
could rent it for the session. And they said, yeah, okay. They let me rent it. And that guitar is like the heart of the song, that sound.
Yeah.
And Doug loved the guitar so much that after the session, he actually went to the store and bought the guitar. He couldn't
Oh,
give it
right.
back. He just loved it so much. And we used it again on a few other things. So yeah, he's got it in his arsenal now. He loves that guitar. So
Oh, that would be.
yeah, it's that kind of ringy 12-string sound, and it's got that sort of that's what I was looking for. Kevin actually he identified the riff and said you should really work on that, and I actually had to write more lyrics in the studio.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Because I didn't think we were going to record that one, but I played him just that. And he said, "No, that's a good one. Work on that." So he often
Yeah.
does that to me, which puts me under a bit of pressure.
Yeah. Well, he has a good ear, has to be said.
He
So
does. Yeah,
yeah.
he does have a good
So,
ear.
so thinking about that, when you went in with 18 songs and you've come out with 10 recordings, were there any of the songs that didn't make it that when you went in initially you thought, yeah, this is definitely going to be one that will
Yeah,
be on, and it turned out not
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm, like,
it's
disappointed, but in hindsight, Kevin is correct, and that's what's great about having a producer that can help you. It's really hard to produce yourself.
yeah,
There's a lot of you're too wrapped up in you can't be that objective.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that as you say, at least you've got a core of some songs to take forward for whatever that is comes up in the future, haven't you? So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And yeah,
yeah,
and it also inspires you to work on stuff and work on riffs and keep everything and think something might come of that and, tinkering with songs and taking them apart and putting them back together and taking apart from another song and putting it in this song and, "Oh, that works."
yeah, yeah. Well,
You're
as you
like a
say,
mechanic.
Traces of the Flood is a point, isn't it? Because you've had that in your back pocket, as it were, for 5 or
Yeah,
6 years.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
yeah, it only really revealed and I worked on it, and it's very strange. It's just I just changed it into a different key and put a capo on the guitar, and then the sound sounded different and not as boring, and I changed the chorus a little bit, and then suddenly it just came to life. It's very strange.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. With songs that are, I always believe great songs have a life of their own. They're an
yeah,
entity. They're not, you know. I think
I
we
definitely
talked
feel that.
about this last time. That
Yeah,
you can just wake up in the morning and the song is there, and you have to grab it before
yeah,
it goes. Um,
yeah.
yeah, if you're not
That's
ready
generally the
for
best
it,
thing of an iPhone is that it has
mm,
the voice app function. So you
yes,
have a recorder in your pocket. And I
yeah,
mean, it's a strange story. I mean, I used to have a Walkman that recorded. I've recorded on my kid's little Fisher Price cassette deck that had a microphone. I can still see it. It's a little red thing. But the iPhone, the best thing of the iPhone is the voice note function for me.
yeah, yeah. It's uncanny how many songwriters I talk to, and they all say the same thing. That
Yeah. It's
often
in your
they
pocket.
don't really know where the song comes from. They just come, and obviously you work on it and you embellish it and you use all of the skills and talents that you have. But the actual core of the song is an existence in itself.
Yeah, you're definitely a conduit from what's out there. It's
Yeah.
just that you as a songwriter are channeling what's out there. You're more locked into channeling it than someone who's not doing it every day, but probably everybody could do it. It's just
Mm.
opening yourself to stuff coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think last time we spoke, you compared it to, you said you have to have your line in the water to catch something. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you kind of have to
exactly.
be prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you write a song every day, you could write 360 bad ones, but you'll write 5 good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you only
I
write
hadn't
5 songs
thought of
in a
that in
year,
that way.
they won't all be good.
Um, I was just looking at the songs again. Angeline is another one.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that almost had an early Stones kind of feel
Yeah, it's a
going
story
on.
about, I once took a when I was 21, I went to America and I went right around America on the Greyhound bus. A friend of mine and you could get a bus ticket for $99 for 3 months. It was valid and you could go anywhere. And we used to sleep on the bus so we didn't have to get a hotel room. And I saw the whole of America. And we met other students, people from Europe, and the one trip we were on the same bus for like 2 days, and we kind of became close friends on the bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those buses pulled into the seedier parts of all the towns, and you went on the exact same bus, but the bus would get to its city, and then you change buses, and so on and so on. And Angeline is actually a story about a person that would sit next to you on the bus, and she'd tell you her life story. And Angeline was a rodeo queen, and she
Right.
and her faded dreams, and you're on the bus, and roll me down to New Orleans. You're on your way to New Orleans. But yeah, and the playing does have that sort of loose country rock kind of loose
Mm.
vibe jam, and the
Yeah,
lyric is that sort of thing. Roll me down to New Orleans, and stuff like that. And it's just
yeah.
a story about, and I found it quite interesting, someone who set out to be a rodeo star.
Yes.
And then obviously it's hard to become a rodeo star, and you fall off the horse and whatever, and you've got to make your living. And but then they kind of say, well, let's move to Vegas, or let's move to Reno, and put everything on red and see what happens there. It's that kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah. A kind of a recklessness almost.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's about that. I've always enjoyed meeting people who you're not gonna, you probably won't meet them again, but for 3 days you've been thrown together. Whether it's on a bus or a plane that didn't take off, or and you find in a normal situation you wouldn't have spoken to the person, but you get thrown together and you not
yeah.
like each other. You whatever, and she's a rodeo rider. It's that
In
kind
my
of song.
case, it's most often to happen in a bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But often you get just stranded somewhere, or you stuck together, and you're
Yeah,
sitting next to each other, and you strike up a conversation, and then you find out that everybody's got an interesting life.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. You going kind of from horses to Dark Pony, which I
Yes.
thought was an interesting song, and I wondered, is the pony a metaphor for a young lady?
No, it's not. It could be, I suppose, but it was inspired by, I went on an actual horse riding trip with my daughter.
Right.
And it was like a 3-day trip where we didn't realize what we were getting into, but you had to swim with the horses across the rivers. So you had to get the horse into the river, which the horse didn't want to do. And then as soon as the horse felt that its feet weren't on the ground, it would start swimming. Then it realized,
Right.
nature kicked in, and like it realized it has to swim across this river. And then you have to get off the horse. And because you're too heavy on the horse, you have to hold on to the horse's mane, and it swims with you. And it was inspired by that. And also, what happened, these rivers were at the river mouths because we were riding on the beach. So you would start up quite high up the river, but the horse would be swimming, the current would be pushing you out to sea. And that was the
Right.
metaphor for why I've got you, pony, is then a metaphor to say, look, we'll get onto dry ground again. We're in a bad situation. I see you heading out to sea, but I'm going to get you back onto dry ground. And then it
Yeah.
was just the story of, we've ridden through mountains, we've ridden through towns. It's just a story of life, but it's not the avoid metaphor of a horse and lady. No, it's more a horse as a companion.
Mm.
And a thing that's always interested me about horses is that they allow us to ride them. They could,
Yeah.
a horse could kill you in a second if it wanted to. It can just turn around
Yeah.
and kill you with its front legs. And they let us put them to work. And I've always loved horses, and I've always ridden horses since I was a small child. And I love what their eyes look like, and the depth of
Mm.
their eyes, and how they work with us. And there's so many great horse pairings in life, Don Quixote and Rocinante. And so it's really is a story about friendship between, it could be between a man and a woman, and it is that, or a man and a man, or a man and a horse. But it's really about our life on earth, on this planet, is a journey where we cross rivers and go through mountains and see things and see towns. But it's really a journey of friendship. And for me, that's the most important thing in life, is friendship and connection
Mm.
with horses or dogs or people, or nature or birds or
Mm.
mountains, just rock.
Yeah.
I feel a connection to mountains and rock. Strangely enough, you would think it's inanimate, but it doesn't feel like that to me.
No. No. I think that's very true, and I think it's sad that a lot of people have lost that connection, haven't they?
Yeah, and we definitely wired. If you open up to it, and I
Yeah.
found that in the lockdown, because I was in the COVID time, I was in a rural environment in a cottage, And I started seeing and that's why those songs came out then. I started noticing that that bird is always in that tree. And that's that
Mm.
bird. If I come around this corner, I know that that eagle roosts there. And oh, that bird has arrived it's just migrated here. It's just arrived. So you
Yeah.
started, and on such a limited scale, but we were very connected. Even 300 years ago, we were very connected to nature.
Yes. Yeah. I
And
have a
obviously,
thing with trees, and I always hate when wooded areas are cut down to build,
yeah,
or yeah, it just seems almost sacrilege to, destroy those trees that are, yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I often see furniture like old tables where you see these long tables. It's one piece of wood,
Mm.
a table that seats 10, and you think, man, that was a beautiful tree.
Yeah. 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 I think that kind of connection with nature is something that it goes across all of your solo albums, certainly.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There's definitely there.
yeah, yeah.
One with nature. Yeah. So, what's next, Steve? I asked you last time, and is there ever any chance that you're going to come and play for us over here in the UK, do you think?
I hope so. So we managed to pull off doing a show in Nashville at Christmas with the band that's on this album, the exact same band,
Oh,
and that was
mm,
great. We recorded that, and as I said, we filmed that. So there's a couple of live videos, CBGB Christmas and Across the River. We filmed and recorded live, and we'll put that out this year. Yeah, and obviously I'm doing shows here in South Africa, and yeah, obviously I would have to get Kevin maybe to help me to put together a band in the UK, but I would love to. And,
mm,
obviously I would be able to do that if there was a demand, I'd play it. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
I'm still
I
a
think it would be great to
niche
see
artist.
you over here. Sorry?
I'm still a very niche artist.
Okay.
I know. No, not your fault. Not your
Yeah,
fault.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be chipping away.
yeah. One day, hopefully. One day,
Yeah,
hopefully. And
yeah,
maybe, people don't realize your incredible kind of musical background and all the connections to obviously what you did with the previous band in South Africa and the huge success you had with that and the
yeah,
Rodriguez connections
yeah.
and all of those things.
It's been fun.
Yeah, you've had a very checkered musical career. I
Yeah.
I think when we spoke last time, I didn't ask because I think you worked very closely with Stephen Van Zandt on some projects.
I never worked with him, but back in '84, which is long ago, he came to South Africa promoting. He just left Springsteen's band and made
Mm,
his own album, Voice of America. And I was doing record reviews for the local newspaper. And I asked him if I couldn't interview him because he came to South Africa on a publicity tour for his album.
mm.
And I did interview him and I did my homework and we had a nice long chat. And then I whipped out my demo cassette from my Fostex 4-track and I put it in my Walkman and I said, listen to this. And he listened to it and he said, yeah, he loves it. And he put me in touch with the same engineer that had just finished Voice of America, who was John Rollo, who had worked on a lot of Kinks albums. He was the Kinks'
Oh,
studio engineer at Conk Studios and he came out and recorded our first album. So that was the connection. And then
right.
I met Steve
Okay.
again, actually through Kevin. Kevin has mixed some of his solo work, and he's very close to.
I thought he did a kind of an anti-apartheid tour. I don't. Yes, I thought you were involved in that. So not that one. Not guilty. Yeah, 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 yeah. But you did the thing, the anti-AIDS thing with Brian May, right? That's where that came from. Yeah, right. And yeah, because you played on. There was a single, wasn't there? Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. And then yeah, and then of course the whole Rodriguez thing with which again I think a lot of people don't realize. Of course, Rodriguez was kind of rediscovered, and there was the film and everything. And of course, he came out and played those huge shows that I think you were a part of. And then the whole thing kind of got a second life when the film came out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But despite having done all of that, you still think of yourself as a niche artist. It's a tough job out there, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm I'm very envious of you playing with people like Doug and Bob because Doug, yeah, I mean Doug has played with a lot of people who some of my favorite Americana artists, and I hadn't quite realized how many great people he's played with, like Tom Ovens and people like that who are just fabulous. And oh, who was the other guy who sadly passed? Yeah, Todd Schneider, who sadly died in November, didn't he? Mm. Well, thanks, Steve, ever so much for your time. I'm sorry we had a few technical glitches at the beginning, but we're here. We're here. And, yeah, it's great to talk to you again. Great to catch up, man. I really do hope that you get to come and see us in the UK sometime soon.